Hey, H3A, and today we're playing once again some more Mindustry, and this time around we're going to take on the Stronghold, which apparently is a high threat sector. And the large enemy encampment in this sector guards significant deposits of thorium. Use it to develop higher tier units and turrets. I like the sound of that. Let's dive in. Let's see if we can build a little bit of a neater factory today with all the new things we've unlocked. Okay, well actually the start of this level is kind of interesting. We have this nuke over here that has some graphite production and some payload mass drivers. And are going to shoot that graphite over here, then that graphite is going to go in my citadel. I actually have an upgraded base this time around. And it's also going to go into the arc furnace to have some silicon production. We have some beryllium production, not too much honestly, but at least we have some of that. And then we also have some cliff crushers, and that's about it. And we also don't really have any new resources inside, other than a little bit of graphite here that I can pick up, but other than that, well, we are probably going to have to build some basic units, because we do have enemies incoming in 3 minutes already, and then use those units to explore and expand and defend those expansions while we're at it. Well, this covers that graphite production, and I might as well just get all my base vehicles in production because I have all the resources I need to do that. Now, once I've done this, I actually think I should be starting to boost all of these drill ores just so I have a little bit more base production to work with. Okay, well, looking at this, I probably need a lot more silicon production to get all of this up and running, so let's get to that first. Well, I've got my first units up and running, and it seems that we have the first enemies incoming. Although it's not necessarily, again, enemies that are actually going to attack me, for now at least. It just means that they start to become active, I believe. So we have a little bit of a, well, a little bit of a defense line over here. I don't think it's an entire base. It's probably just a small outpost or something like that. There's one of them over here as well. There's a lot of turrets there, though. So we're going to need some army to defend against that, or at least take that, but well, this might actually be an entire base. Well, I guess we'll have to find out one way or another. I am in the progress of upgrading my base, so I now have 2 arc furnaces, and I just realized I actually have quite a bit of power left, so I can utilize some of these turbines over here to start making some water and use that electrolyzer towards boosting all of my base production. Okie dokie, well this looks like a nicely powered up facility, thanks to some of those electrolyzers getting the hydrogen into all the drill bores. This is producing quite a bit of stuff. Now the real problem is I actually can't find any tungsten on the map. Might be me, I might be overlooking it. Let me double check, but I see some beryllium, some graphite here in the wall. Let me double check that it's not actually tungsten. I don't think it is. Nope, this is definitely graphite. So yeah. I guess I have to take out one base before I get access to tungsten, and that's probably going to be this one. This seems to have some basic defenses. This one definitely has all the turrets in the world, so yeah, I'm not going to get through here with the tier 1 units. I might be able to get through here, even though this is... well, it's not the heaviest defense, but it's still some defense at least. But I can build up to 45 units now with all the base units in production. I can't build any of the tier 2 ones, because remember, I need tungsten for that, and I have 0. Well, yeah, no, I don't have 0. I don't have enough to produce tier 2 units. So, I guess I'll just build up a little bit more of an army. I can almost triple it in size compared to what I have right now. And then we're going to take the fight to the enemy already. And since I had to do something while waiting for my army to build up, I figured I might as well just upgrade my defenses a little bit. These are not going to hold off any significant waves of enemies, but at least for now it's going to be a fairly decent defense against the tier 1 units the enemy has been sending at me so far. I even put up a little bit of water production to help boost these turrets, along with a nice little liquid container which is going to store up the pitiful amount of water that they're producing in this single turbine that is powering all of this. Anyway, yeah, you have to work with what you have, and this is all I have available at the moment. Stop, don't shout at me, I just realized I had another turbine over here, so now this one is also powering my front defenses here. Now, almost good to go. We are closing in on the maximum number of units I can build at the moment, and then hopefully we can just run over the base down south. Alright, so I just got attacked, and this is where I'm going to counterattack right away. It's always better to have the enemies kill themselves first before they stand behind their walls and attack you from their side. Hold on, I'm actually going to... Can I just... Yeah, there we go. I'm going to walk you over the wall and attack from the other side. That's probably going to be a lot more effective. There we go. And that's one tower down. Where are you guys shooting at? Are you actually shooting just at the random walls? Come in here already, if you can at least. And there we go. That's the front line down. Now let's start wreaking havoc on whatever we can find. Let's take out the unit production. That's probably going to be useful. And there is the bastion already. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot more trouble with the second base. But at least for now, this is one base down. And that should allow me to get all these nice little resources. Do we see any tungsten in here actually? Because that's what I'm looking for. But I don't know. There's graphite here. That's nice. There's a whole lot of stuff here. That is, well, nice since I can destroy it. Oh, there we go. There's the tungsten in the corner over here. And let's take out these turrets. They should be no problem considering there's no walls to protect them. And yeah, there's a lot of tungsten over here actually, which is actually nicely walled off. I mean, I'm gonna have some trouble with the enemy crawlers because they can get over here, I think. But other than that, all the other units are going to have to go around. Unless, of course, this is the part where the game starts sending flyers at me, then they can come from any direction, but one problem at a time. Alright, so it took me a moment to actually clear out this base because for some reason it didn't completely self-destruct, nor could I delete the remaining things in the base. So I actually had to move my units all around the map, clean up all the individual pieces of belt by shooting at them. But yeah, I managed, and as you can see, we got a fair amount of power from all of this. Not a massive amount, we have still no arcosite on the map that I can see, but at least we have a lot of resources here. And the second base that we now have will also allow us to double up on our army. So, more importantly, we have the tungsten available over here. Now, I did actually build a large plasma bore, but I can't fuel it because I need hydrogen for that, and I could, in theory, run a pipeline all the way from my other base. But I am just going to temporarily put down a tungsten drill over here on the tungsten that is on the floor, and then connect that to my bastion, and then make sure that it's powered by water. And from that point on, once I have enough tungsten, I can actually build an electrolyzer and start fueling this thing, and then this power-hungry drill bore can be replaced by some more of these large plasma bores. Alrighty, there we go. So I replaced the original drill bore with an electrolyzer, and now I have 3 of these large plasma bores making tungsten. I could actually double up on that even still, but I think for now this is more than enough, because we want some of our power, which is kind of dwindling at this point, to go into the production of tier 2 units. I am really starting to enjoy all these hydrogen boosting that I can do. As you can see, we have a lot of production, even more than a single belt can handle now, so I think we're good on graphite for the moment. I also made sure we had that beryllium coming in now, which is almost a full belt as well. So between the tungsten and these bare resources, all I need now is silicon. I got worried there for a moment when I was trying to hook things up to the sand, and it turned out that all of these walls over here don't actually work with that, but there is a little portion of the wall over here that I can actually mine for sand, and there's some more over here, so it's not a problem, but yeah, something to keep in mind, that sand could actually be the bottleneck, strangely enough. Anyway, I now have another 2 furnaces making silicon. I could probably add in a couple of more because I do have more sand over here. And there we go, all 3 of the tier 2 units in production now. It looks pretty organized. It's also a little bit weird because I don't think I have any way of building any more complex machinery because, well, I don't have slag, and in order to build anything more complicated, like the crucible, for example, I am going to need some slag. So yeah, anyway, tier 2 tanks are a very welcome sight, and we're going to have some air units and creepy crawlers on top of that as well. It's also worth noting that I pretty much optimized my base as far as I can without running into power issues, because as you can see, my power is hovering around 0 because of all of this production, and I have no more vents, I have no arcosite, so I have no other ways of getting power other than taking my power from my neighbors. So yeah, we're just going to have to sit around and wait for some units to build, and in the meanwhile I'll set up some more defenses just because I can. Okay, so at this point I'm starting to wonder, is this level called Stronghold because I am building a stronghold, or because I'm supposed to destroy the enemy stronghold? Maybe it's a little bit of both, but I haven't been attacked for like 10 minutes while I've been building my army, and as you can see, yeah, it's a pretty sizable army. I have something like 150 units almost here. It's going in that direction for sure, at least. And I built, well, this was my first defense line, but I also have a secondary defense line over here. I built some turrets here just in case crawlers would come through, but yeah, I haven't seen any enemies for a little while. That probably means they're all stuck in the base for some reason. I do like setting up my defenses with these blast doors just all over the place. They're, I think, a little weaker than the actual walls, but at least like this, if you take a unit, you can just fairly easily move through. Units don't get stuck as much. They kind of get in each other's way already to begin with. So yeah, just being able to move your units in and out is well, pretty handy to have. Now I do have some air units, so I'm gonna do some recon. Okay, I scouted the entire enemy base just by suiciding a couple of units kind of like through it, because there are some of these larger turrets over here that are quite dangerous. But I also noticed that I can easily take out a couple of things on the fringes, as it seems that the actual ammunition is coming all the way from over here. So if I can just take out a couple of these blocks in terms of the ducts, then these things will no longer get their ammunition and I can just bleed them dry. The same thing kind of holds for some of the other resources over here, as well as these supply lines, because as you can see, even though this is a big jumble, if I can take out, for example, this block over here, that means that these turrets are no longer going to get their fuel. And similarly, I can also take out, for example, the water supply, things like that. So I am just going to whittle away at this base at this point with my air units, and then take in my ground units. Now, there's also something else I accidentally found out. There's like a mini base over here, and it also seems like the map might be expanding after I take out the next base, because this definitely is going somewhere, but this is where the map stops, at least at the moment. There's also Arcosite over here. There's also Arcosite over here. So at this point, whenever we take over one of these bases, we can actually easily take this one out. It just has a single turret defending this. I'm a little bit worried though, if this is part of a larger base, then starting to build here is going to be a disaster if the map actually opens up. That said, if I can take this Arcosite, that's a massive amount of power I can get. And I actually kind of want to try it anyway, because if I can take this power and build that up before I destroy this base, then I already have all that power supply good to go for whenever we are expanding. So yeah, something like this maybe. This is probably over-designing it, but I have a lot of power production here, so now I'm actually up to a surplus of 3k, and that is even with upgrading some of my facilities already. So I added in a couple more of these plasma cores for the tungsten. I upgraded my oxide, I should say, facilities over here. Why? I don't know. I don't really know what I'm going to use all of that for. Why is this one not working? Oh, it actually doesn't have any power. There we go. Let's fix that. Yeah, putting on these signals, by the way, is super useful. Thank you for that tip, because now at a glance I can see if something is not working. So I am producing pretty much everything at a pretty decent speed. I have all my army completely produced. Once again, there is one building not working over there. There we go. And I have a lot of surplus power production. Now you might be wondering what all these turrets are doing here. Well, I know when I'm trying to build something that there is an enemy base over here. So this is like on the front steps of the enemy, and I figured, well, why not put some sublimates here? They're using ozone, so I can use that ozone that I'm producing here anyway to defend this. These things are going to be using way more ozone than these 3 electrolyzers are producing. I added in a couple of liquid tanks because of that, which are actually not filling up, because I am using all of the ozone in the chemical combustion chamber. So not a perfect design, but if I do want to speed things up a little bit, I can just remove a little bit of this pipeline over here. Then everything will flow initially into these liquid tanks and will be spread out to the actual turrets. So, you know, in case I need to have a little bit of defense up and running, but in the meanwhile, I can use this for power. Now, I think by now it's time to start destroying some bases. It's funny how effective it is to just harass the enemy base from the sidelines, because now I just took out the bastion from the back. And look, 6 minutes before enemy production is going to be escalating. So yeah, we are definitely going to get more enemies incoming. And yep, the map opened up to the south as well. So I'm really happy I built all of this extra production, because this is just going to make this phase of the game a lot easier. I can build another one of these bastions over here, so that's going to increase my army size quite a bit. So yeah, I have stuff to do. Oh, and I just noticed that there's actually some thorium over here. The game doesn't actually tell me how to mine this. I assume it's with these larger plasma bores. There's also nothing in the technology tree yet that I can unlock. Would have been nice if they kind of gave you the unlock for thorium so you know how to actually get it and then require you to just mine some of it to actually unlock the other things. But yeah, I don't know. Let's set up some miners and see if that works. There we go, this looks like a pretty nice and organized base. So what I've done is I set up a whole bunch of these thorium miners. I also set up the hydrogen so I can actually operate these. Now since I'm producing hydrogen, I figured, well, I have Arcosite here, might as well produce even more power. I have quite a large surplus of power still, even though I decided to go the suboptimal route and use a massive amount of that power to produce some nitrogen. Now this is not entirely suboptimal because I am using that nitrogen to boost my facilities, my plasma bores over here. Actually, I am not boosting this one, so let's fix that. This is going to give me a whole bunch of thorium, and in 3 seconds we are going to see what the enemy is going to bring to the table, and we're probably going to have to use that thorium in order to build some upgraded units. Now I do like that this is nice and organized, and when I say suboptimal, I just meant that it's kind of wasteful to use all of that power to make these electric heaters. But I could instead use that power towards producing even more oxide. I am already producing so much oxide, however, I was like, let's just go the easy way out. I am producing a massive amount of every single resource I have available, including the thorium now, so I think we should be fine. And speaking of thorium, it's a good thing we have a lot of that in production now, because there's a massive amount of new things to unlock with it. So we have the reinforced vault. I'll zoom in a little bit so it's actually readable. That's just an upgraded version, I think, of the containers that we've had so far. We also have the large payload mass driver. This is a long-range payload transfer structure. This is, I assume, going to allow me to just shoot things across the entire map almost, compared to the previous ones I have, which is going to be useful because we also have the prime refabricator, which upgrades inputted units to the 3rd tier. So yeah, we're definitely going to want to do that. There is also the build tower, which is going to help me build my buildings, which honestly, given that we're now getting to the more complex buildings, it's going to be pretty useful because some of these buildings actually take quite a while to set up. We also have the eruption drill, and it's an improved impact drill capable of mining thorium. So yeah, we have that going. What else do we have? We have a new tower. The Titan fires a massive explosive artillery shell at ground targets, and it requires hydrogen to function. So yeah, and all of this is actually pretty expensive. For example, in order to unlock the Titan, I need 13k thorium. So that's going to take a minute. Oh, we actually have a upgraded version of the Disperse. Sorry, no, we had the diffuse, so the disperse is the thing that was shooting at me so far. Also going to take 1.3k thorium to unlock, so I'm just going to focus on the things I actually need for now, which is the upgraded refabricator, as well as probably the mass driver. What was it? This one over here. Really expensive to make as well, but I am going to have to use that, I think, to get all my resources where I want them to go. Especially considering I can't actually build those cargo drones that we unlocked in the previous level, because I don't have slag available, at least not until the map opens up. Well, first of all, I was right, there's a small enemy base over here. There's actually a turret shooting my own turrets, and they have a smaller range, so they're not firing back. But that's not going to be a real problem, because I can actually just sneak a couple of flying units in the back over here and shoot at the bastion, by the looks of it. There don't seem to be any units defending this, so yep, there we go, that is one base down. Would you look at that, there was actually a unit coming to defend that, but too little, too late. So this map is actually turning out to be pretty interesting after all, but I guess as you can see, there is some little outposts here and there on the map that are just, well, not really doing anything by themselves, but that we do need to take out if we want to progress with our land units. And on top of that, whoa, that's also not the button I was trying to press. On top of that, there seems to be some bases over here. The map actually extends all the way out here as well. There's some enemy units coming in from the south. I'm actually under attack, as you can see, so I am going to have to kind of marshal my defenses while I'm also trying to build up a new army and take out the enemy. So, interesting. There seems to be a pretty substantial base to my west, actually, but once you can punch yourself a way through the wall, you can pretty easily take out things like turrets and a base along with it, apparently. Actually, I don't think that was the main base yet. Let's just start whittling away at this base and take it out. There is a turret here that's not actually doing anything. That works for me. This one is actually also not working. Is that because I turned the power off? Could be. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, this is again one less base to worry about. And we can take out this citadel, build one for ourselves. And then we should be in a pretty good position to take over the rest of the map. And same thing with this base over here. I might be actually kind of cheesing this level at this point because I'm just using the army I already built to walk all over the existing enemy bases. And there doesn't seem to be too much defense. They're scaling things up, but for now that doesn't mean a lot. Oh wait, this is where the actual enemy is, I guess. Let's not walk my tier 2 units in that. We saw from experience what our turrets did to the enemy while we tried to do that, so yeah. Okay, yeah, things are definitely scaling up, but we are taking out substantial amounts of enemy fortifications. And well, this is base number 4 taken out. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if this is how you're intended to play this, but it's working. I should note that we have several more bases to go. There are constantly units coming in, so it's not without resistance, but I am definitely getting the Stronghold feeling while also having a lot of fun just walking over all these enemy bases. Well, that's base number 5 down with just the help of some flying units. Yeah, sneaking through the back door with these units is very, very effective. That's at least 2 bases down by just a couple of flying units and 3 bases down with the initial units I built to prepare. Not entirely sure how many bases there are actually on this map, but the number is definitely going down very quickly. Speaking of which, I'm really starting to like this whole meta where I'm just flying in a couple of units, literally, and then take out the supply lines from the back. And now I think these turrets over here are not getting any supplies whatsoever, so that should be fairly easy to take over pretty soon afterwards as well. There are some mass drivers over here. Ooh, this is probably not a unit I want to take on with a couple of flying units. But, oh, this is actually apparently connected to another base before. Well, let's just take out some more belts. I mean, the resources are not going anywhere. They can't harm me, right? Right? The tank is trying to find me now. Oh, I can actually do a lot of damage here, assuming I don't get blown up. But yeah, taking out some more of these power lines and things like that. Yeah, the tank, you can try to chase me around, but that's just not going to work. I'll take out the silicon production over here as well. Now, these things are probably going to be repaired by the enemy at some point, but the enemy seems to be pretty slow in repairing overall. So, yeah, any damage I can do is definitely going to make my life taking over this base a lot easier. Ah, would you look at that? There's another base over here that I can just kind of sneak in through the back and destroy whatever defenses there are. Try to not get in range of the turret too much, but as long as I just keep bouncing back and forth, I think I should be able to take this out. I'm not entirely sure what triggers the fact that it can or cannot reach me. But yeah, it's a little bit time consuming doing it like this. But if it works, it works. And if it takes out the base, I am definitely going to do that. And if you're wondering what I've been doing in the meanwhile, well, mostly just unlocking stuff. So the prime refabricator is unlocked, as well as all the units that go in there, or get out of there, I should say. The mass driver is unlocked, the bigger vault is unlocked, and I'm working on a couple of other things. And most importantly, the build tower over here, just because I think it's cool. Okay, given the size of the explosions coming from the turrets over here, I don't think I want to go through the back for this, I think, last base in the south. But like I said, my flying units can do most of the work here. And I will just move my units all the way back through all of this in the direction of my main base. Let's see if I skipped anything over here. No, I think we pretty much cleared out the entire south. And I have a pretty substantial backup army waiting for me. So let's see, if I look at the map now, there's probably going to be something over here, but I think we're all the way down to a single base still defending, but that was the base with all the slack defenses and massive turrets, so that might require a little bit more work. And yes, I am going to build some of those Thorium units, but for now, there doesn't seem to be any reason, and taking out, I think it was 6 bases so far, was definitely worth just kind of focusing on that for a moment. That said, the game is now telling me that enemy air unit production is going to begin in about 4 minutes. Let's pause the game there. I'm not entirely sure where they're going to be producing those air units because they're running out of bases. There is this base on the top, so I assume this is where the enemy units are going to come from. I also figured that it might come from down here, but I've been able to cripple this base with my air units as I just showed you. So even though this bastion is still up because there's some nasty turrets here, as long as I just draw the fire from that turret with a couple more units, it should run out of ammunition. As you can see, all the ozone and stuff like that that was going in here is now been destroyed. So it will run out of ammunition pretty quick, but there's no production anymore happening in this base anyway. I think there's only going to be some base unit production in here to begin with, so the air units are definitely not going to come from the south. Now that doesn't really solve anything because the AI is pretty smart in just sending their air units to harass wherever they can, and they can pretty much just show up anywhere. So what I'm going to do is I am going to hoard up some of my own air forces, and I'm going to focus on building my own tier 3 air units first. Okay, I hope you like over-designing things, because as I was making the layout, I was like, can I do a couple of other cool things? I'm not entirely sure if this is going to work, but I wanted to show it to you anyway before I try it. So, what I have over here is a couple of these mass loaders. Not entirely sure why I need a big version, because if I look at the range, it can barely reach over here. And I could do the same thing with 2 of the smaller ones. But anyway, this works, hopefully. And this is going to bring the thorium to this side, so where I have my tier 2 facility as well. I pretty much just replicated that over here. I did take a little bit of space in between, mostly to make all the things I need to link up a little bit more convenient to place. And then I have this kind of this belt over here that is leading into the tier 3 production unit. And what I'm hoping this is going to do is actually a couple of different things. So it's going to put all the different machines on this belt, then put those into these 2 upgrading machines. But I also hope that because I'm using these routers over here, that if they cannot fit into the machine, that it will also output them just like on the floor over here, and thereby being able to produce both the tier 2 as well as the tier 3 units. Is that actually going to work like I hope it will? I have no idea. Let's go and find out. Well, we're about to find out, and can I just say, look at these beautiful connections, these bridges at the 90-degree angle. Thank you for everyone in the comments that helped me out with understanding how these bridges are actually supposed to work. But yeah, this makes things a lot easier and a lot cleaner looking. It's also worth noting that the first machine actually reached this refabricator. It went all the way through, and yes, oh, this is beautiful. It's working exactly like intended. Now, I do have a feeling it won't spit out these units on the floor, and thereby I cannot use this just to produce the tier 2 units as well. But all in all, this looks pretty awesome and efficient. So I guess I'll just add a third machine to it and nicely tucked in the corner because I'm running out of space over here. But all in all, this should be producing all my tier 3 units. Now, I do have a problem because all of this is taking a massive amount of power. As you can see, I'm now at a deficit of 3k. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go to some of these bases I captured and set up some more power because this is not going to cut it. Okay, apparently the AI actually did start to rebuild some of this base. This is worrying. Now I have to double check all the other bases as well to see if they rebuilt those as well. And the answer is no, sort of. I mean, you can actually see this base is actively being rebuilt, but I also checked out several of the other bases and nothing seemed to be happening there. So, not entirely sure what is happening, but I assume if I build this, I should be okay. I should probably send some flying units here, though, to take out whatever they're trying to build here. Okay, so what you doing, guys? They seem to be really bad at trying to rebuild stuff for some reason. I mean, you saw the laser beams or whatever they are called building stuff, but yeah, I actually don't know exactly how or if they're actually rebuilding stuff. You can see this was in production, but maybe the moment like my units arrive, they take off again. I honestly don't know, but at least for the moment, it seems like we're not having to deal with these bases all over again. The nice thing about having a gazillion bases is that it also allows me to build a gazillion units. Now, most of these are just tier 1 and 2, but I am starting to build my tier 3 units as well. And I actually don't know where they went. Hold on. Well, first of all, we have these giant crawlers now, and they can crawl over pretty much everything. Well, not everything, but it's pretty close, though. Let me see, can you actually crawl over everything? No, you can't, but it's pretty large areas that they can go across. which is super useful for getting around everything really easily. Why did you guys stop moving? We also have the tier 3 air units. They look really, really cool. And then we basically have giant tanks that can shoot at stuff. That's a nice demonstration of how these things work. There we go. That was a tier 3 unit of the enemy that I just killed. Yeah, and I can build 135 of every single unit in the game now. Now, that's probably a little bit overkill, but yeah, you know, it's something we can do now. Okay, I do have to note that the downside of this layout in particular is that it seems to always prioritize the main belt. So now I'm pretty much just making crawlers. That happens to be the type of unit I like the most, but it's not necessarily efficient. So in the next levels, we are probably going to have to make just a dedicated facility for every single type of unit. Now, what I do like is the fact that thanks to these belts, we're kind of stocking up in units, even if we're capped out. So that means that if your units are getting destroyed, it's a lot easier to start rebuilding them because you already have some in the pipeline, basically. So anyway, yeah, I can build, I think, up to 900 or even 1,000 units, but that's probably a little bit overkill. So let's just send this wall of death at the turrets and see where that gets us. Probably not that far if I do it like that, but there's so much firepower in here. I think we should be able to blow a hole in this wall pretty easily. And yeah, if we can just move in here, the turrets, I think the pure firepower should do the trick. And I think in the rest of the base, there's actually not that much defense. There's some anti-air turrets. There's a lot of anti-air turrets. That's not really going to be the main issue, I think. Look at that. We can easily take this down. This is a pretty well fortified base though, so it's kind of satisfying to walk all over this. Let me find the bastion. Where is it? I really love, by the way, these large crawlers. Look at the range on these things, and then they're actually doing some long-range AoE. Yeah, that's just awesome stuff. But that should be the last bastion, unless they rebuild something that I'm not aware of. But yeah, it doesn't look like it. So yeah, that was the end of the Stronghold, and it turned out to be a pretty fair Stronghold after all. So even though I was initially a little bit disappointed about this level, it turned out really, really fun, and I'm really liking these tier 3 units as well. So if you're still here, hopefully, because this was a pretty long episode, you're awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.